everyone. Welcome to our JCC Holidays at Home program. Even though you guys have all been on and we've all been talking, I'll do a little bit of formal introductions. But we're so excited to be celebrating yet another holiday virtually all together. At Passover, we always say next year in Israel. I think that we're all still saying next year in person. So before we get started and before we hear from our wonderful chefs who are making their wonderful family charoset recipes, I have a question for us to ponder. And that question is, why is charoset so sweet? So I don't know if anyone wants to offer a thought. So I came across this and I saw this question in an article, and it was really interesting because charoset symbols hard labor and oppression. It's the mortar that the Jews used to make the bricks in Egypt. It's related, the Hebrew word is related to charos, which means clay, right, Yuval?
Yeah.
All right, okay. According to Maimonides, charoset symbolizes the mortar that the slaves used to make brick. So like this super sweet, delicious food symbolizes something really terrible. So Rabbi Dr. Jill Hammer explains that the ritual meaning of charoset is ambiguous because it's never explained during the Seder. According to the Talmud, one must explain certain foods at the Seder, the shank bone, the matzah, the maror, but charoset, we never really explain. And as I was looking through the Haggadah to prepare for this, I was like, where's the explanation for charoset? And it's not really in there. So whether or not charoset is a Passover obligation, and the Talmud disagrees about this, it seems clear that discussing it is not a mandatory part of the Seder. Its meaning is not fixed by the Seder, but rather is open to interpretation. So this raises the question, why create such a delicious food to embody such harsh oppression? So there's a legend from the Midrash that speaks to the role of the fruit in the Exodus story, and it seems to suggest that charoset is not only a symbol of sorrow, but also of sweetness. The story from Exodus Rabbah says, as the people are passing through the Sea of Reeds, the parents of young children have a problem. Their children are hungry. It's easy to imagine how going through the sea at midnight, the children would get upset and need a snack. And we know that children get super whiny at that point. So the Midrash says that the daughters of Israel passed through the sea holding their children with their hands. And when the children cried, they would stretch out their hand and pluck an apple or pomegranate from the sea. In the legend, the Sea of Reeds becomes kind of like a Garden of Eden, producing fruit and food for those who need it. The miracle of redemption is associated with fruit trees. So when the trees blossom every year, like they're starting to in Memphis, as all of our allergies are starting to get worse, but at least it looks beautiful, they show us new growth is possible. Passover offers much the same message. What if we told the story of the fruit within the sea as part of our Passover Seder and asked one another how the sweetness of charoset reminds us of the wondrous gifts of liberation and the blessings of springtime? What if the charoset could not only be a symbol of sorrow, but an embodiment of joy? That would seem to match with the more joyful experience of eating sweet charoset. So we don't need to disregard the idea of charoset as mortar, but we can sweeten that meaning by telling some of these new stories as part of our Passover story. And we can use the charoset to inspire us to increase the sweetness of liberation in our world. So the symbolism, even though there are different meanings for it, the symbolism is still similar in Seders and Passover throughout the world. But there are many different versions and recipes. From the majority of my life, I thought that the only recipe for charoset was apples and nuts and cinnamon. I don't know if that's anyone else or just me and my family, but learning that there were other recipes and other ways to make charoset was eye-opening. So I'm thrilled to introduce our wonderful chefs. We have Sylvia Albert and Wendy Steck. and Yuval Ramras. And they're both going to be sharing their different versions of Charoset. And I'm hoping that more people will hop on and join, because I know that you guys are experts and have a lot of family history to go upon as we make it. So now I'll turn it over first to Wendy and Sylvia, and you guys can explain a little bit about your Charoset and tell us what to do.
All right. Okay, so a little bit about our Charoset is that my grandmother, who was Booby Molly, her family came over to America from the old country. And so her parents were Bubba and Zeta, and they came from Poland. And so when they came, everything was always sweet. And so my Booby Molly and my Aunt Lena and my great-grandparents, Bubba and Zeta, would speak only Yiddish. So everything that they did, it was like written in Yiddish. So at the time when my mom was little, and this was on my mom's side of the family, when my mom was little, they had to translate the recipe into English. So everything that they had on there, like they used that, remember that old sweet Mogen David wine that was just really heavy? When there was no other wines there, they always used that wine. So it was that. But what made it different was that they would always use different types of apples. And my grandmother loved using the Granny Smith apples. Mm-hmm. And then she would add like a red apple, because, you know, years ago, there weren't all these forms of apples like there are now. Like you can go into Sprouts or Whole Foods and you can buy like 1 million different kinds of apples. And the different types of apples bring in the sweetness. And so she began, once we realized that there were more kinds of apples, Booby would always go and get, like she said, let's don't get the red apples, but let's get the green and something else.
Yellow. And
I'm going to jump in just a sec. It looks like Wendy's starting to peel her apples. So if you guys
start peeling her apples while she was talking, just so that
I know, I feel like peeling the apples always takes the longest for me. So you can go ahead.
It does. That's why I figured I'd multitask while she was starting.
Right. So let me tell you about the apples that I found. So I do have a green apple. My favorite place to go for apples, and I love eating apples, is Sprouts, because they have like 8 or 9 different types of apples instead of just that hard red apple. So I have that one. I have an ambrosia apple, and I have a new apple that is my favorite apple. It is the sweetest, and I can't wait to use it for Rosh Hashanah. It's called the Sous Bee apple. Mm-hmm. And it is so sweet, and it just, these three together bring out such wonderful flavors. Mm-hmm. So that's, you know, you want the sweetness. And I always think of, now that I've learned something new, Lauren, because your story was like, whoa, that's a whole different perspective. I always think of it as the sweetness of a holiday, is because, you know, Rosh Hashanah, we have apples and honey to bring in the sweet new year. And I always think of apples as we're bringing in a little sweetness to a holiday. So, and I want to keep, let me tell you why I really, this year means a lot to me. I lost my mom in October. And my mom loved eating. She would eat Charoset anytime you made it. It was like her favorite.
For any meal.
For any meal. Like that was just her favorite. And so it kind of means a lot that, you know, we're going to make this and we're going to think about her, and it'll be a different, you know, a different year, but it'll be special. So, you know, I think when we talk about family recipes, it always like adds that person back to the table that isn't with us anymore, you know. And so
it's really special that Like normally, like in our family, we just all kind of have different jobs. So normally, like now I'm the Charoset maker.
Right.
So it's like my special thing that Grammy taught me to pass down. And so like I love doing that. I love doing that with her, and it always makes me think of her. And I can't wait now that I have a son to teach it to him and to my niece and nephew. And like knowing this family recipe keeps getting carried on makes it just even more special.
Yeah. And the same thing when we make horseradish, because that was my mother-in-law's, and that whole end of the family made that. So, you know, I think holidays are a time to bring in those special recipes that have been passed down from generation to generation.
While she's talking, I just went ahead and started peeling some apples, and I just don't have an apple core with me. So I'm just slicing them into small apples because we're going to be using our big chopper. If you have a small one, you can use that also, or you can sit and just kind of chop them also. It's really up to you and whatever is easy and convenient and what you have time for. You want to start peeling those? And
Yes.
You know.
Also, we also add lemon. For the lemon is the tart, but if you put lemons on apples, then you know how they turn. They can turn kind of
helps them in getting so brown.
Yeah, so that they're not, you know.
So I'm actually going to go ahead and put some lemon juice on these apples that I already cut while she does those. What I like about this too is kind of funny when Lauren asked me to kind of put a recipe together, because it's kind of just something that I just kind of do and throw together. So it really actually took me a little bit to sit and think, okay, now what all do I add? Like kind of what are my measurements? Because it kind of depends. You know, normally we have a huge 20 to almost 30 people Seder. And so I'm normally making this in much larger quantities in the biggest bowl I can find. And so now that it's just going to be, you know, less than 10 of us, I have to kind of adjust my measurements. So a lot of this is kind of you taste as you go and kind of what your preferences are. I really like more Granny Smith and the lemon tart that kind of really pairs well with the sweetness. Sometimes I sneak some pears in also, even though my dad isn't the biggest fan, because I like how it mixes with the apples. And if I just don't tell him, he eats it anyway. Some people even add a little bit of like fresh orange or orange juice to it also to give it some more of that flavor. So it's also really your preference. I love that you can just kind of make it your own for your family. Get some of these lemon seeds out. You can use lemon juice as well. We just had some fresh lemon, so it was easy.
Okay, you ready to go chop?
I'm gonna start chopping.
Okay, she's gonna chop.
While you talk more about some Passover stuff.
Okay. All right. So after we get our apples chopped, okay, then we have nuts. Now we've already chopped our nuts, and we like using the walnuts. I don't know why we use walnuts. I don't know if there's a reason for using walnuts.
I just feel like it's something
I think we've always used walnuts, but I don't know why you couldn't use like pecans or, those would be the only two that you could really.
That would be that same.
Yeah, kind of use. Right.
In Texas, everyone there uses pecans, so we've always put pecans in our charoset.
Yeah.
Thing. And I see Carol just said. So yes, Carol, the only fruit that you use in the Ashkenazi one is apples, or Wendy said you could throw in some pears too. Aiden, stop.
Well, and it's funny because you'll like this. So my husband spent a summer working in Israel, and when either before he went to college or the year after his freshman year, and he had to get up every morning really, really, really early, and he'd pick pears, and he hates pears now. So we don't do pears.
You didn't like the pears in Israel?
No, I think he didn't like eating them early in the morning. So
that's okay. I don't really like pears as well.
So it was just kind of, it was one of those things. I love pears, and pears are really they bring out a different kind of flavor. And I've used oranges before. My grandmother and I used to squeeze oranges in them because the oranges kind of give it a little more sweetness. And I think we've never used brown sugar in it, but I'm sure there's some people that do use brown sugar, but we've just always used regular white sugar. Okay.
If you need help with your chopper.
So what size does the cubes has to be?
However you get it into the, I don't know, I guess kind of like that, just however I get it into the food processor.
Okay.
I'm having trouble with my food processor. Hold tight 1 minute.
Could I ask one more question, please, about the fruit? Are any of the apples going into the Sephardic, or are all of these 6 to 8 going into the Ashkenazi?
You can do half and half.
I think you could do half and half.
Thank you.
Wait, no, we don't need apples for the Sephardic charoset. This is just for the Ashkenazi one. We don't need apples.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. I think you could use different. Oh, wait, hang on. Okay. Let me get my food processor up. Now, hold on.
The first time that I'm making Ashkenazi charoset. It's funny that you said that you never thought that there are like other types of charoset, because I never imagined in my life that people make charoset from apples. I always thought, until I came here to Memphis, that people were making charoset from dates.
It's so funny how like these different cultures don't intersect as much as you would think they do.
Yeah.
There are also, I mean, just in like a short Google search, there are so many different versions of Charoset, like not even just Ashkenazi and Sephardi, but like people put all kinds of things in them. I saw somewhere maybe like Turkish, but they make like Charoset balls where like you take
Nice.
they're almost like little truffles.
Nice.
It's so interesting. It's probably like one of those like fruit nut bars that's just like molded into a ball.
Probably really like that, and that's what I was thinking when I saw the other recipe with the dates. Kind of, I'm sure you can definitely make a version of that.
Yes, I need just a minute.
I have a question. I don't know if they hear me.
Yeah.
If I don't have food processor, should I chop the apples differently, or small cubes like that's going to be good?
I like my apples, like you can chop them if you don't have a food processor. I like them smaller, like maybe like fingernail size, if that, gives you a good visual.
Okay, I'll do that.
Some people,
So basically,
So, like-
as small as I can. Chop them as small as I can. Okay.
Yeah, definitely fine. Now she got the food processor working, so now she's gonna do them all together.
We're going now.
Zhuzhi is definitely in the Jewish Yiddish vocabulary.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question, sort of jumping ahead? So I'm actually going to make the Sephardic one, and I also don't have a food processor. So how small should the nuts be? Because I'm starting to chop them now, so I can.
Oh, the nuts. It shouldn't be like too small or too big. Somewhere in the middle, just like small chunks, if it
Okay.
makes sense.
Thank you. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Tell her you can get a chopper too, like an old-fashioned chopper.
My mom's saying you can use like any sort of old-fashioned chopper, however best. Sometimes a knife is just the easiest way to go, though, especially once you have it all kind of like sliced and you can just kind of dice and go. Whatever's easiest. We definitely used to do this without chopper, and like I think last year or the year before, I broke our apple core for Passover, so that's why I'm just slicing them regularly. You just kind of go with what we have. I joke with Mom all the time that she has a whole Passover closet in the living room, and it's kind of just like this scary place just because there's so much packed, and it's stuff that's hers, it's stuff that is my grandmother's on my dad's side, stuff that's her mother's, her great grandmother's, and it is just kind of packed in all of these shelves, and the shelves are like in a U shape, and it goes, it's just a whole closet dedicated for Passover. So I get nervous and I'm going to knock something over, or, and especially if she has leftover, like matzo meal or whatever, she even keeps it in there and keeps a list so she knows the next year kind of what to start off with. I said, I opened the door. I couldn't find what I was looking for. I said, you can go get it. My sister and I try to go in each year and kind of clean out some stuff a little bit. We slowly started throwing away some of the old Passover Tupperware that didn't have matching tops and lids, kind of urging her to get some new ones. But we love you dearly, Mom.
Yeah.
It's for the best. New Tupperware now is so much better than it used to be anyway.
And I also have all my grandmother's and my mother's Passover pots and dishes and all that chazarai that we just keep through the years.
So I'm gonna go ahead and show you. So this is kind of the consistency that we already have. So it is probably actually smaller than fingernail size. We kind of like ours a little bit more like grinded, kind of fine.
But a lot of people like it a little more chunky or a little bit more soupy. Like there's all kinds of things that that you can do. It's what your consistency is.
And if you don't like it, you can always sometimes if it's not good enough or we want it chopped more, we're like, let's throw it back in the food processor and give it another go.
Right.
Or, we like to make it at least a day or two early. So it's time to sit in the fridge and kind of soak up. So sometimes if it's not the right flavor, we may even chop up another apple and add it in there or add a little bit more wine. So it's kind of just like a play as you go and what your preference is. So I'm going to go ahead, if you want to cut up the other lemon, I'm going to add in some of these nuts.
Hi, Amy. Hi. Amy, I'm so excited you're with us this year for Passover.
Me too.
Okay, so I have a question. Have you seen the
I just
picture
became
on
good
the?
friends when she moved. What?
Have you seen the picture on the Facebook event, like the Charoset one? There's a picture of Ashkenazi Charoset in the Facebook event, and the apples there are like big cubes compared to that, it's a small one.
Oh, wow.
Which one is the classic one? Okay. So is this the classic one, or like the Ashkenazi one, or like the big chunks?
Big chunks is a little bit more classic. I think just over the years, we kind of just started going with our preference of we liked it a little bit finer chopped, so that I don't know why.
And I have to say, probably with all of the different Sephardic versions, every family does it a little bit differently. So if you ask one family, they'll say, oh no, the big chunks is what you have to do. And if you ask another family, the small chunks, and everyone, so many family recipes that everyone does it a little bit differently. So yes, it's all traditional.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thinking too that even it may have been we make it we like it smaller now that we have younger kids in our family. So we have some little babies. So I think maybe that's why we start doing it, so that a little safer for them to eat. So I'm just squeezing the fresh lemons on this mixture.
Wait, we're not cooking the apples? We just put them in a bowl?
You just put them in. Yeah, they don't need to be cooked for this. And it saves you a step. Yeah, just the raw, good, juicy apples, especially when they're like that. They're just so easy to soak up other juices.
I know we always made two, when we did it with my uncle, we always made two separate versions because he's allergic to nuts. So we always made the charoset without the nuts and then took some out for him and added in the nuts, you just.
Yeah. That's what we usually do too when we have when we have more people coming, we do a no nut and a nut version. So yeah, we do the same thing. This year, just because it's our kind of immediate family, we know everyone will eat it. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with just I'm gonna do a half a cup of sugar that I'm gonna go ahead and add, and I'm just gonna start with that, and then kind of once we kind of add more and play with it, I may add a little bit more, but I'm just starting with half a cup for now.
This is her good specialty. She knows what to. I always take care of the apples. I'm good.
And Wendy, would you help your grandmother make the charoset too?
So I'd go to her house and loved doing it, and I always ate the apples throughout too. So she'd know to buy some extra ones because I would be eating them while we were doing it. And so I'm just
And when the girls were little, Booby would always have them like stand on a chair so that they could help her chop, or she would say, okay, now put it in there, and then they put it in there.
Yep. And I personally like the blackberry flavored. This is just the Magen David wine from Kroger. That's easy. Regular Concord grape, or we were talking earlier about grape juice, is totally fine too. I just think the blackberry kind of gives it a little bit of a different flavor, but it's really sometimes whatever we kind of have on hand. So I'm just going to start with doing a half a cup and kind of play with it and see where we're at.
And it's a taste as you go thing, you know. You got to have a glass of wine, and you got to smush it a little more, and then you have another glass of wine. That's what makes it so much fun.
So it's 2
And
glasses of wine per 1 glass per Charoset.
Yes.
I know. And we were actually talking earlier about I don't know why we do white sugar, and we've never done brown sugar with it. And I actually think brown sugar would be so good, but I kind of wanted to play with it on my own and then see how it tasted. I don't know why we've always just done white. Maybe that's just always kind of how we've done it. If anyone's feeling adventurous.
That's right.
Yuval, I see you're tasting it. I want to know your opinion of Ashkenazi Charoset.
It's great. It feels like a fruit salad, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I like it.
Put the nuts in.
The combination of apple and cinnamon is perfect in my opinion. I mean,
Oh my God, it's so good.
Need just a little bit more wine.
It's really good. Has anybody ever made it with the skin on the apple?
Yeah, we were talking about that too, that we normally always just peel them. And I say, because sometimes, the choppers are kind of messy and sometimes they don't, I don't know if the peel would get in the way. We've never done it with the peel on. I mean, maybe just like a little bit, if you skip like a little part of it, but.
Oh my God, it's so good. It makes you think of Passover.
And the smell.
It's like Passover. That's what it should do, right?
Passover.
Yeah, no, I've
I like
never known. I don't think I've ever seen a recipe with the skin on.
Yeah.
I don't think I have either.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. A little bit more cinnamon.
Yeah, just cut it off.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, the juices in it are the really good part. So when you leave it, we're going to put this in a Tupperware container and let it sit in the fridge for a few days and let it really just kind of do its thing. It gets better.
Yeah.
Do you mix it every few days? Like, do you need to mix it up every day or so?
No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll forget. Yeah. I'll forget. But on Friday when I'm home, I'll mix it again.
Just kind of taste it. Yeah, you don't have to touch it every day.
Right.
We usually try to do it like a day or two before Passover, just so it's not like super mushy, but that just enough so you get a little bit of the crisp apple with some of the juices that have already kind of soaked in. Good balance.
And it's so good during the week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And there, it's delicious.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing your family's recipe. I know that some of you are still mixing, so keep on mixing. But I mean, it's the whole family tradition thing. Like you can, I don't know about you guys, but I can feel the family love through the screen as you're making it. And I know that your grandmother would be super happy to know that you're still doing it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Yuval. And Yuval, if you'll kind of get us started with all of the chopping and what we need to start with, and then we want to hear about your family's Charoset story.
Great. Well, thank you first of all for coming. I see you're all still mixing, so I'll introduce myself real quick before we're going to get started. My name is Yuval Ramrazker. I'm 23 years old and I'm from Israel. I live in Yokneam, which is 20 minutes south from Haifa. I served 4 years in the IDF. I was a teleprocessing instructor, and then I served as a teleprocessing. I went to officer school, and then I served as teleprocessing officer for 2 years, and I served in Jerusalem. My base was there, and I was responsible for the networks and computers in the Jerusalem area. Then after the IDF service, I did my psychometry test, which is like the SAT in Israel. And I came here to Memphis to be a shlichat at JCC. So I'm really happy to be here. And today we're going to make, thank you. Today we're going to make charoset that when I checked like the recipes, I'm half Yemenite, half Indian. So when I check the recipes, I like the Indian one and the Yemenite one. They're both pretty similar, but they do have like some differences, especially in the spices. So today we're going to make the Indian charoset, but it's not that different from the Yemenite one. So basically all you need is dates, majul dates. You need raw almonds, walnut. You need some wine.
Yes.
And cardamom powder. Now that's optional. If you don't have it, it's not that bad. And I was surprised. This charoset, we're gonna cook it like over the stove. So I was really surprised when we're not cooking like the apples. That's why I asked if we're cooking the apples. Okay, so we're gonna get started with the dates. We're gonna take the dates. We're gonna open them in half. If you have like dates with no pit, it's perfect. If we have like dates with the pit, it doesn't really. It's okay. We're just gonna open them in half, get the pit out, and then we're gonna start chop them into small cubes, just the smallest cube as you can. If we're gonna as small as we're gonna chop them, we're just gonna make the process of cooking them faster. So this is why we want to chop them as small as we can.
Where do you get dates like that?
Well, I found those in Kroger actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Yeah. So when we're chopping
they
them,
are. Yay. Okay.
Whole Foods has them too.
Oh,
great.
good. Okay. Yay.
But Yuval, what was your comment about the dates that you buy in Kroger compared with the dates in Israel?
okay, so I'm not gonna lie, it tastes a little bit different. I mean, the dates in Israel are so much. First of all, they're bigger, they're juicier, and they're sweeter. But you're just gonna have to come to Israel and taste it yourself, you know, and you're gonna have to tell me.
And don't they're growing right on the trees. Can't you just like pick them off the trees?
Yeah, we have we grow dates in Israel, so yeah, we have them basically everywhere, and they're like super cheap, and yeah, we're using them for Pesach and not for Pesach. I mean, it's every person who does like morning sport, they wake up in like 4 a.m. and does sport. It's known that they're eating dates before they start their, morning sport. It's like,
Wow.
yeah, it's like everyone in Israel does it. So after you're chopping the dates the smallest cube as you can, doesn't have to be perfect. Just put them in a pot, and then we're gonna cook them in 4 minutes. Now you can use as many dates as you want. Just to remember that the dates that you'll chop, it's the amount that you're gonna have basically. So if you want to make a lot of charoset, you're gonna chop a lot of dates. If you want to make a small amount, just use a few dates. I'm using like 10 dates,
So,
something like that.
Yuval, I have a question. So if
Yeah.
I'm using the, per your recipe, with 1 cup of almonds and 1 cup of walnuts, how many dates should I use for that?
What size are your dates? Show me.
I have the same ones that you have.
Okay. So you can use like 10, 12 dates. That's okay.
Oh, I lost count. Okay.
Yeah, and
I'm just,
and it's okay if you like a lot of less almonds in your charoset, or a lot of almonds in your charoset, then you can add to your taste for as much as you like.
well, I plan on eating this for the week. So
Great.
One of those great make-ahead foods.
So the shopping list said 12 ounces of dates, and I just threw all 12 ounces on my
That's okay.
cutting board.
That's great.
Okay.
And Yuval, who in your family typically makes the charoset?
So it's funny because in both sides, my aunt makes the charoset. I don't know why. I mean, it's like an aunt thing, I guess. Yeah, and they're making like really good charoset. I mean, my grandmother used to make the charoset, but as they got older, it became a little bit hard for them. So my aunts started to make the charoset, and yeah, they're doing like it tastes really good. So in my family, we either go to my grandmother's house, like my mom's mom, which is the Yemenite side, or we either go to my aunt, which is like the Indian side. She's my father's sister, and I love both of the setters in their house, but it's like very different.
So what makes them different? Uh-oh.
We lost Yuval. She'll be back on in just a minute. There she is.
So Yuval, what's is it a pot we're putting it in, or a skillet, or what? How are we cooking
Yes.
this?
Okay, yeah, it's a pot just like that. It doesn't have to be big, small pot. Then we're gonna cook it with the wine in just 3 more minutes.
So do you serve the charoset cold still, even though you're cooking it together?
What do you mean?
Like, is it like when you serve it at your Seder, do you have it warmed up, or do you still serve it
Oh,
cold?
warm. No, we're serving it cold. So it has to cool in the refrigerator for a few hours. Yeah, we're eating it cold. So when we'll finish cooking, you'll see that the charoset is kind of like liquid, but it's starting to get like,
Oh, okay.
like more solid as it gets cooler.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what kind of foods do y'all eat on Passover? Like on the Indian side?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So, as I was saying, the differences between the seders, I mean, like the story that we're like the Agadah, the story that we're reading, and everything is the same, but there are few differences of like both of the versions, but they're like super different. So I don't know if you know it, but Yemenite people in Israel, they consider like great singers. And there is actually like a Jewish explanation for that. That's because like the Jewish people, the Jewish Yemenite people, when they sing at the synagogue, their song that they're singing, it's like, it requires like really high vocal abilities. They sing it like in a very impressive way. So I guess that the Jewish people, when they grew up and went to the synagogue and read all the prayers, right from when they were, young, they were used to this type of singing. So, so the Yemenite people in Israel really have like a reputation to be like great singers. Of course,
Wow.
this gene, skipped me, and I don't know how to sing at all. Yeah, but all the songs that we're doing, like in the Yemenite side, like Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya, and Echad Mi Yodea, all the song. I mean, you can hear it from the end of the street. We're singing so loud, and we're just banging on the table, very loud. And on the Indian side, it's not like that. It's like very quiet. It's very like peaceful. And the food is very different because in the Yemenite side, we eat like we eat like things that we eat like every week. We eat like Yemenite soup, which we have every Friday. We eat Yemenite chicken that we also have every Friday. And then we eat like a lot of like Israeli dishes, like pasta with sauce. It's like the food is good, but it's not not like special for Pesach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And from the Indian side, it's like a festival of food. We have like biryani, like lamb biryani, Like, we have chicken biryani, we have beef biryani, we have so much food. We have curry, and we have like different types of curry, like a lot of food, a lot of different food. It's like festival of food. It's amazing.
Wow.
Next time I go to Israel, when she's back, I'm visiting.
Yes.
It's fascinating. Just because, like, you know, for me, like I grew up with like matzo balls and brisket and potatoes, and it's so different. I mean, even the fact that like Sephardic people eat rice on Pesach and Ashkenazi people eat potatoes.
That's so weird to me.
It's so different to me.
Uh-huh.
Right.
And what people
And
put
we
on there.
have potatoes too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we eat a lot of potatoes during
do.
Passover.
Right.
Eggs and potatoes.
Yeah, it's so funny what people do differently on their Seder plates too. You know, for the
Yeah.
longest time, we would eat parsley. So gross. You'd always make us eat parsley, and then we finally
Yes.
switched to potatoes. And like people
Right.
just do kind of a
Because
different-
my husband's family would eat potatoes in salt water, but my family would eat parsley. I don't know what the two have to do with each other, but I like the potatoes better than the parsley.
Yeah, we've always done parsley in our house. Like I think that I must have been an adult before I realized that like potatoes on the Seder plate was even an option. So
Right.
you all, it looks like you're done chopping your dates. So what's the next step? Oh, did we lose you all again?
He's frozen.
Oh no. Her internet in her apartment is not so good. So she'll be back in a minute.
Totally.
No,
Yes.
and there's-
Okay, so next thing we're gonna do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes, you
Yeah.
cut out for a minute.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so next we're gonna put the pot on the stove. We're gonna turn the stove to medium heat.
And how much wine?
Okay, now we're gonna add the wine. Okay, we're gonna I'll measure it exactly, so I'll be able to tell you, because usually I just, and then
It's a very technical shh that you have.
yeah, exactly. It's like 3 seconds.
You know, it's eating something. Oh.
Okay, you can start with 1 cup of wine. 1 cup, that's gonna be okay. And if you'll see that you're gonna need more, I'll show you the consistency of the charoset that it needs to go to. If you see that you need more, we can add more. It's like my mom always said, you can always add more liquid, but you can't get them out. So
Right.
Mhm.
it's better to start with a little bit.
Doing like medium
Okay,
heat?
just give it a small mix. Just like that. Yeah, medium heat, it's good. Oh, it smells so good. You have to smell it, Janet.
Mhm.
Okay, and the dates, they're gonna start to become really, really soft. You don't have to put the cover on, that's okay. Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna start chopping the almonds and the walnut. We're gonna use, that depends on how much you like. If you really like almonds and walnut, you can add a lot. If you don't really like that, you can add a little bit. I really like almonds and walnuts, so I'm gonna put like 1 cup. This is we can chop them. It doesn't have to be, perfect or too small. Just like that. Okay, see that? Yeah. And
So
from,
in your charoset, it's bigger chunks of nuts.
yes.
Okay.
And give the dates with the wine some a mix so it won't burn. Yeah. So I think Israel has like really good dates. And funny story I had with the dates is when I was in the IDF, like in the officer school. One day, the commander told us, like at 3:30 in the morning, and you're gonna go to like a journey to earn your tag. The soldier had a tag on their shoulder that said they're like where they're serving, and to earn the tag of Badahat, the like officer school, we had to do like a journey. So we woke up 3:30 in the morning, and on 4 a.m. we got on the way. And I asked if we can have some, like breakfast before we leave. And the commander said, I don't recommend that you'll eat like a big breakfast before you leave, because it's gonna be like a long journey, and it's like doing sport in the morning. It's not good to eat a lot, but you can just eat dates. It's good. And I'm like, okay, great, but how can I get dates? It's not like I can just go to the supermarket and buy dates. And then when we left to the journey in the morning, we just had like trees with dates on the way. When we just collect the pound and just get them.
Here we go again.
Okay, so if the wine is starting you can see that the dates are starting to soften, and just try to crush them. If you see that you have too much liquid in the charoset, you can just let it boil a little bit longer, and the liquid will, like go away.
So
And if
should
that
the
doesn't work, you can just add more dates. What?
So should the dates turn into almost like a paste, or are they still going to like hold their shape?
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
Like a paste. Exactly.
Wow.
So different.
I know.
I'll show you like a picture. Okay.
It sounds like it would be a really good, like a jam on something, like a real sweet.
Yes, it's starting to look like a jam. Exactly.
Oh, yum.
So I'm just trying to crush them a little bit with the fork. I'll show you the consistency. You see? Yeah, it's like jam. Now
Oh,
it's okay that
that.
it's okay that it's kind of liquid, because we're not serving it hot, we're serving it cold. So as it will get cooler, it will be, a little bit more, it's not gonna be with a lot of fluid. It's gonna be like a paste. Yeah, this is a good consistency. If you have this consistency like that, you can turn the stove off. This is good. Okay. Just like that. We're gonna move to the almonds and walnut. Now I'm gonna chop them. You can chop them however you see fit. It doesn't have to be like too small or too big. Like that. Janet, how about your charoset?
It's looking good.
Oh,
It's
Great, awesome.
It started to boil.
What do you
Also, I'm using
think of the smell?
Say that again.
What do you think of the smell of the charoset?
Oh, honestly, I don't have a great sense of smell, and I'm a little clogged up from allergies. So, but hang on.
The joy of Passover in the springtime.
Oh, it smells really good.
Uh,
I got my nose close to it.
Okay, you can tell me what you think about the taste later. That's what really matters.
and Yuval, is it always almonds and walnuts, or can you use other nuts in it too?
So, well, I'm sure, as you said, like every like different culture use different kind of things to make like a little bit more their classic. like the Indian and the Yemenite, I know for sure that they're using walnut and almonds. I haven't tried those like with the pecans or any other sort of nuts, but I don't know. It could work. I know that people add some sesame seeds to the charoset sometimes. I mean, not Yemenite or Indian, like Turkish sometimes add it. I know. I mean, I think it's one of those things that it doesn't matter what you're gonna put inside, it's gonna taste good. You know, because the dates are so strong, they have like a really good taste.
I feel like I've seen recipes that use pistachio
Okay, so
too.
after we chop the almonds, we're gonna add them to the. Yeah, that makes sense. That can work.
Are we adding
Now
all?
we can add the almonds to the.
Are we adding all the nuts or just the almonds? Because I just mixed mine up.
Yeah, you can add the walnuts as well if you chop them. Yes.
Yeah, I have mine all mixed together.
All of my wine got absorbed into the dates. Do I need more?
No, that's okay. It's perfect. My wine is also got the dates. I forgot the word, but it became one mixture. Absorbed, yeah.
I think that it's interesting too, because if you think about the two different versions of Charoset, I feel like the Sephardic version actually resembles like bricks and mortar so much more than the Ashkenazi version does. Like I could actually see the like dates like holding something together, whereas like the apples, and I feel like too, it's really just what was available in that part of the world. Like in Eastern Europe, there were apples everywhere, whereas in the other, in the Sephardic region, there were dates, which is amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Now I added the almonds and the walnuts to the dates and wine. And I'm mixing it. I'll show you how it looks right now. That's how it looks. You can see the consistency. And it's super sweet, so we don't need to add sugar to that or anything. The dates are really sweet. By the dates in Israel, it's going to be even more sweet. Just like that. And now you're going to give it a taste, and you'll see if you want to add some cardamom powder. If you like it this way, you don't have to add it.
Okay, that's what we're gonna do.
We want to make it like the traditional way. We're going to add a little bit.
How much?
Just like that. Like, I would say you can add 1/4 teaspoon. This is 1/4. Yeah. Smells so good.
That's not good.
And we're gonna give it a good mix. Okay, you wanna let it cool for like an hour and a half or 2 hours before you're gonna put it in the fridge. And then after like 2 hours in the fridge, it's gonna be ready and you can serve it and just dip the matzah and eat the matzah with the charoset. That's it.
That's
Amazing.
Oh, I can't wait to make it.
Thank you. If you're making the charoset, please take a picture and send it to me because I really want to know how did it turn out.
Yeah, all the versions of the Charoset. We'd love to see pictures or share on social media and tag us. I think it's one of my favorite parts of Judaism is that so much of it depends on your family tradition and your culture and your history. And while we all do the same things and they all share the same meaning, everything is really tailored to your own personal preference and really to like what's carried down through your families. So I know that you guys are all still finishing up some of your charoset, either the chopping or the mixing, but we're excited to hear how it turns out. thank you to Yuval. Thank you to Wendy and Sylvia. I have to say, when I thought about this and wanted an Ashkenazi Charoset, I was like, we need a good bubby. So thank you for being our amazing bubby tonight. And Wendy, thank you for being an amazing aunt and daughter and granddaughter and all of those. And Yuval, you too. Thank you for bringing in your family, even though they're far away. I hope that you feel like you're at home when you eat your charoset. And as we all say at the end of the Seder, we say next year in Jerusalem. And really, more than anything, I want to say next year in person. May we all be making our versions of charoset together with our family and friends. And thank you. So
Great.
yes. So have a wonderful evening. If you want to stay on and ask any questions, I'm sure that, Yuval or Winnie and Sylvia are happy to stay on for a few minutes. And thank you.
This is great.
And then next year we're going to do Charoset around the world.
We're going to do Charoset around the world next year.
You still have time. There's what? There's still 3 days before Pesach. You don't have
one thing that don't work.
I have a question for you.
Kroger. It's
Val.
always our family thing is there's always last minute trips on the first and second day to Kroger. How many eggs can we buy?
Oh my
How many
goodness.
is in the refrigerator?
The amount of eggs, I don't know what it is, but the amount of eggs that we go through on Passover is twice as much as the amount of eggs that we use any other time of year. And we use a lot of eggs in general. It's crazy.
So I will share this with everybody. A couple of years ago, Wendy decided that it was stupid to dip an egg in salt water.
Oh,
That it just didn't make any sense. So she began making
I started making deviled eggs because I went to school in Kansas and I spent Passover 1 year with my best friend in Kansas City, and that's what her family did. And so I was like, we are totally going to do this. And so I brought it home, and now it's like our tradition here. And sometimes I do different types of deviled eggs. Like 1 year I mixed in avocado with the yolk and made an
so
avocado
good.
deviled egg, which is really delightful if you like avocados. And so we've kind of like changed some of now it's become like a new family tradition that I got from another family. So yeah. So then we definitely use a lot of eggs for that.
So
And then they have to be pretty eggs.
right.
Pretty, deviled eggs.
Well, next year we're going to do a program where everyone just shares all their amazing family traditions because they're all so different and so fun.
So
So
so much fun to learn.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to share
thank you all. Stay tuned. We're trying to do something for every holiday. Our next one for Shavuot, we're going to be doing paper cutting art, which is totally different than charoset making, but will still be really fun. And if you guys have any ideas or thoughts about other things that you'd like to do, please be in touch. So thank you all and have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.